this tour on the Râșnov Fortress in Transylvania, somewhere between Brașov and Dracula's Castle, that we'll visit tomorrow. Hello, Val and Dennis. How it is in Canada, the weather. Here is pretty hot, at about 28 degrees. I will give you a small view of the place where we'll be in a couple of minutes. Hello, Rachel. Welcome to the tour. It's a very old fortress, and it's a very important strategic point between Bran Castle and Brașov. Bran Castle, as you know, it is Dracula's castle that will go tomorrow to do a visit on the interior of the castle and to tell you all the stories about the vampire count and Vlad the Impaler, the real character which stayed at the basics of this famous character of Bram Stoker. We have a couple of minutes till we'll start. We had yesterday a tour of Brașov, which is the main city of this area of southeast of Transylvania, where I am right now in Romania. Today we are here on the fortress, and the tours will continue tomorrow, and then probably the next weekend I'll have another beautiful tours, because in the town where I live will be a medieval festival with nights, with ladies, with dances, with music, with a lot of events. So I will be there transmitting for you. Hello, Noel, welcome. 18 degrees in Canada, nice. You can breathe, at least. I have a Canadian friend in Brașov, which is living here since about 16 years. He was from Saskatchewan, from Alberta, and he's got married here, have 2 kids, and I know a couple of things about Canada, and especially about the weather there. Comparing with the winters from here, from Romania, even that Transylvania is surrounded by the mountains. He was all the time telling me that the winters back in Canada, back home, are way harsh than the one from here. Hello, Jim, welcome. We have like 2 minutes to start the tour. So little by little we'll get together, all of us. Just to give you a small image, this is a part of the fortress. I'm outside of it right now. And this is an aerial view of the fortress to have an idea. Unfortunately, we'll be able to visit only the outside courtyard, because 3 days ago the fortress started a renovation process inside of it. But we'll be able to see pretty much from everything which it's important to be seen, so that's not a problem. Welcome, Julie. I think it's almost midnight in Melbourne. Am I wrong? Or am I right? Oh, okay, so I think that we can start the tour. Yes, almost midnight. Okay, so we'll enter inside of the fortress. As you can see, it's full of people because it's Sunday here. The fortress, it's it starts its story connected with the Teutonic Knights, like many other fortresses here in Transylvania, because Transylvania, even that it have a population majority Romanian, it was conquered in the beginning of the 13th century by the Hungarian kingdom after about 100 years of fights against the Romanians. And the Romanians continued their liberation fight another 800 years till the complete success when they get united with the rest of the Romanians. This is one of the main gates. As you can see, it's a classical gate of a medieval fortress with that mobile iron gate at the entrance with very thick walls. It's anyway a fortress which was built in the form that you can see it right now only into the 14th century. The first time documentary attested in 1335. But because I spoke about the Teutonic Knights, they built here a fortress, a wooden fortress, between 1211 and 1225, period of time when they was colonized in here by the Hungarian kingdom, which I told you conquered Transylvania at the beginning of the 13th century. Of course, that in here you can the archaeologists discovered in time a Dacian fortress. The Dacians were our direct ancestors, and from their combination with the Romans, which conquered Dacia, their country, which was the name of Romania into the antiquity, the result is the Romanian nation from today. So we are a Latin nation, which appeared from this combination of the Romans with the Dacians. Speaking about the Teutonic Knights, the first ones which built a wooden fortress here, I told you they were colonized by the Hungarian kingdom here in Transylvania. And this is the third order of knights, because the first knights are the famous Templar knights that you know very well, and then the Malta Knights, as you know them today, or the ones which was founded in Accra during the Crusades. About the Crusades, I can tell you many stories, but you know it like me. They started somewhere around the year 1000 to liberate Jerusalem, and with this occasion was formed those three orders of knights. The Teutonic Knights were a German knights order, and they arrived in here, and they were started to build fortifications at the order of the Hungarian king. But the condition it was to build mostly wooden fortresses, because a stone fortress was much difficult to conquer, and the king was afraid that those Teutonic Knights will get more power than he want them to have. So that's why the specific order it was to build mostly wooden fortresses. That's why we have so that's why we'll have in here a previous wooden fortress, which served as a refugee place for the Teutonic Knights, and of course for the villagers, which was around here, into the village that it's placed at the foot of this mountain. And the villagers were mostly Germans, because that Hungarian kingdom, after the conquest of Transylvania, they brought in here, they colonized Germans and Hungarians. Hungarians because they have to defend the frontiers of Transylvania. Romanians, as a conquered nations, they do not have any intention to help the conqueror, but to send him out. And the Germans, because they were very good merchandisers, and they were very good artisans, so they can develop very well the entire economy of the area. So for this reason, the first German colonists which arrived in here, they settled themselves into this place, which is now called in Romanian Râșnov, but in German language is called Rosenau, which it means the valley of the roses. Because when they arrived in here, it was a big valley full of wild roses. Actually, they made a confusion. Those wild roses was actually the plant that you know it as briar. It's a plant which have beautiful flower like the roses. So that's why the German name was Rosenau, the Valley of Roses. Of course, that after that first documentary attestation of the fortification in 1335, this fortress, it was already built in here by stone, as you can see all over around me. And now you can see the main tower of the main entrance from the exterior yard where we are now. It was built by stone with very thick walls, very high walls on that time. The fortress is built on a rock. You can see around of me, we are surrounded by the Carpathians, which as a mountain chain surrounded Transylvania, like the walls surrounding the citadel, a fortress. And the elevation of here is about 770 meters above the sea level and 120 meters above the city. And here in this outside courtyard, I will go 360 degrees to see what I'm talking about. The fortress is up on the hill. You can see the barbicane at the beginning, that round construction at the foot of the walls. I will tell you about it in a minute. So in this inner courtyard, it used to be kept the cattle during of the period when the people used to live inside of the fortress, mostly during of the sieges. And here in front of me, it's a foundation of what is used to be a Roman Catholic chapel, because if they were forced to live for a very long period of time in here, they have to have a church, of course. To the left side of this chapel, on that green field, the archaeologists discovered many years ago the small cemetery of the chapel. So that's why a lot of bones, a lot of skulls, some weapons, if we talk about knights, buried there, jewelries, and all this kind of pottery. No, was rebuilt, Jim. All that you can see here was not rebuilt in the old times, in modern times, but renovated, because excepting that wall that you can see it, that have a whiter color than the other one, yeah, that one was rebuilt just to see from the inside how it was looking many centuries ago. But the rest of the constructions, everything that you can see in here, including the wall of the fortification, it's exactly the one from 700 years ago. They doesn't rebuild too much because they are not allowed to do it. If you do this, it's like a historical fake, and they are not allowed to do it. So to continue my story, when the people starting to come in here, they was living for long periods of time. That's why inside of the fortress they used to have, for example, a school and a lot of small houses which have one floor, because at the ground floor it used to be the shop where the merchandise, when the artisans sold their products, and at the first floor they was living with their families. As well, the fortress, it have about 8 towers to assure the defense against the enemy. 8 towers very well enforced with warriors, with a lot of weapons. That because this fortress was placed on a very important commercial route between Bran Castle, or Dracula's Castle, where I will be tomorrow for another tour inside of Dracula's Castle. But that Bran Castle was the frontier, was the checkpoint of the frontier between Transylvania and Wallachia, the south of Romania. So that's why the commercial road between the Bran Castle and the city of Brașov, which is the main city of the area, it have to be defended without any problems by a strong fortification in here. That's why this fortification was very well fortified on this main commercial road between Bran and Brașov. Hi, Raluca. And as well, as I told you, this fortification was conquered only once in its history in 1612 when Gabriel Báthory, one of the rulers of Transylvania, which tried to become the absolute king of the province, and was an enemy of the Germans, of the Saxons, which do not wanted him in that position, sieged the fortification, and he conquered it just because he cut the water supply from a spring which was existed into the area of the fortification. That's why the people were forced to surrender in front of the prince. Here I'm in front of the main gate of the entrance inside of the fortress, inside of the citadel. This demi-round shape show us the barbican, as it used to be called in those times. It's a very complicated system of defense and a very efficient one, because as you can see here at the gate, I will approach a little bit, are many windows for shooting built into the walls of this barbican. And if I will approach in here, you will see through the fence that exists inside another inner yard of the fortress, which actually let the enemy to enter, but also from the both sides and from the tower which is in front of us with another second gate called the towers of the weapons, the enemy was shot and killed by the arrows or by the guns of the people which was defending the fortress. After that siege, where they lost and were invaded by Gabriel Bethlen, I will give you another image of the fortress. It's an aerial village of the image of the fortress. Yeah, this place is near of Dracula. Yes, it's very close to Dracula. Joniel will go. I will go tomorrow to Bran Castle, to Dracula's castle, to see it. That's why I've told you before that this fortress was a supplementary, if you want, fortified place between Bran and Brașov, Brașov being the main city of this area. So this commercial road between Bran, Dracula's castle, and Brașov have to be very well fortified and guarded by a supplementary fortress. So after that siege, when the citadel was conquered, yeah, if you want to see Dracula's castle, Joniel, I invite you tomorrow to follow me, because we'll go inside of it. The people built a well inside of this fortress, a well which actually had about 146 meters, and if this fortification was built in approximately 14 years, the well was built in 17 years, because they dug by hand without all the modern equipment which exist today. So it was very, very difficult to achieve the goal to find water, and they find water only after 14 years of digging, and the result, it was a fountain, a well of 146 meters. Unfortunately today the well doesn't have that deep, are only 98 meters deep, and of course it's one of the very popular legends in Transylvania, which pretend that the fountain, the well, was dug by two Turk prisoners in exchange of their freedom which wasn't offered to them. They were executed after that. It's a legend, it's a very common legend in Transylvania, because and it starts from the Corvin's castle, one of the most beautiful castles in Transylvania. It's and the largest in the same time. There was about this situation. Here I have a map of the fortress where we are right now, and you can see inside of it those houses and the school and everything else which was built. Here is the fountain which I've told you about. It's indicated with the B letter, and we are here into the exterior courtyard. You can see the Catholic Church, which was how it was looking, what it used to be functioning. Another thing connected with this fortress is the fact that into the 17th century, which was a century full of wars in this region. It was a lot of rebellions of the Germans, of the Hungarians, of the Romanians living in here, and a lot of invasions of the Tartars, a lot of invasion of the Turks. So the people had a lot of troubles to stay alive, actually. So that's why they were refugee up here into the fortress and transformed the entire fortress into a small town, because they starting to live permanently here inside of the fortress. So yes, Noel, the visitors are a little bit disappointed because they can't get into the fortress. I just heard yesterday that the fortress entered into a process of renovation, but if the authorities from here doesn't announce it on the internet to know from the time, it's very difficult to guess what's happened, because the fortress belonged to the city hall. But anyway, I will climb a little bit the hill in front of me, because I want to show you a couple of other things from that high point. Exists here in the area, which is surrounded by hills and by mountains, as you can see, exists a hill covered with pine trees, which it's placed on the territory of a village, which is here into the neighborhood of the Râșnov fortress. And that hill, which I show it to you in a minute, today belongs to the people from Râșnov because of a trick. So a couple of hundred years ago, you can see from here, it's another village around. You can see a part of the village of Râșnov, and on the horizon you can see a high tower which belongs to the fortified church from Christian, which is another German village founded by the Germans. And the hill with pine trees, which you can see it right in front of us, it's situated on the territory of the Christian village, but belongs to the people from Râșnov, because 400 years ago it was a judge who said, I will give that hill that you fight for centuries to the ones which can swear in front of me. And 400 years ago, to swear in front of a judge, it was a very big deal, that you stay at the land of your ancestors. So when they presented to the court, before to left their homes, the people from Râșnov put in their boots land from their gardens, so their land. And when they go in front of the judge, they can swear that right in that moment they are sitting on the land of their ancestors, which was true, because the land, the dirt from their gardens, was under their feet, into their boots. Because the people from Christian wasn't capable to swear the same, because they didn't know if their ancestors centuries ago were settled on that land. They lost the trial, the process, and that hill was given to the people from Râșnov. Speaking about hills, we have another hill that you can see it also at the horizon. It's a very high hill, looks like an old cap, in my opinion. And that mountain, it's the meteorologist of the area, is the weatherman of the area, if you want, because usually when we look at the window in the morning, if above of that hill it's a clear sky, will be a good weather along of that day. If at the top of that mountain in the morning are clouds, then we can assure that will be a cloudy weather, will be a rain or a storm, it depends. Never felt, never mistake, all the time was right. So sometimes we used to call it the weather mountain. Today, as you can see, is very clear above of it. Even that here, you can see some dark clouds above me. I hope that the weather will be good, because if there it's a clear sky, here it have to be also very good weather. Here I'm in the corner of into the northeastern corner of the fortress. You can see the remains of one of the towers which existed in here. Now are only the ruins, and they started to renovate it. And it's a tower. When the archaeologists found at the basics, a lot of jewelries, a lot of pottery, weapons, belts, fragments of clothes from so many years, which are now presented into the museum of the fortress. Here it's another it's another bastion. You see it have about 3 levels, very well reinforced and prepared for invasions. Another thing connected with the fortress is the fact that since 1960 the fortress was used by the Romanian film companies to do a lot of historical movies inside of the fortress, starting with the one made in 1960 called The Dacians, about the fight between Dacians, our ancestors, and the Romans. Then Column, the second part of this Dacian movie, and another one called The Immortals, about another knight of one of the most important Romanian rulers, Michael the Brave, in 1600. So the fortress from Râșnov, as you can see, it's one of the largest in Romania and one of the most important in this area of Brașov. Another thing that you can see it from here, is the Wheather Mountain, which is exactly that one. At the foot of that mountain, we have a winter resort, which is called Poiana Brașov, one of the most important winter resorts in Romania, and of course in this part of Europe. So now I will try to get down from here into the courtyard of the fortress. Till I will get down, I will ask you if you have some questions to ask, to be able to answer to it. And I hope I will be all right, because it will be very unpleasant to fall right now. Okay. So I show you the Catholic chapel in here. Inside of the fortress we have a Protestant, a Lutheran church, because starting with 1530, as you know, in Europe was started the reform of Martin Luther, reform which arrived here in Transylvania by the efforts of Johannes Honterius, one of the humanists of Brașov and of Transylvania, and he's the one which introduced the reform in here. That's why good, Jim. Good question. Where did the Romanian language transform from the Latin? The language was transformed from the Latin in between the 3rd and the 5th century after Christ. Because what's happened? After the conquest of Dacia by the Romans, and Dacia was actually the actual territory of Romania, plus Republic of Moldova, which also it was part from our territory till the Soviets occupied. And after the occupation of the Romans, which stayed here about 164 years, and they Latinized and Romanized very well the entire Dacian population. That because between the Latin language, the basic Latin, or the Latina vulgaris as it was called, and the Dacian language, it was a lot of similarities, both languages having in common the Thracian language. So after 164 years, Jim, the Roman Empire was pulled back inside into the south of the Danube, which is now our border with Bulgaria, because into the 13th century, the year 271, was starting the period of migrations. So actually populations coming from Asia like for example the Avars, the Slavs, the Longobards, the Huns, the Hungarians. Many populations like this was coming to the Roman Empire to attack it, to rob it, to destroy it, and because we were part of the Roman Empire, they have to pass us first. And it was very difficult for the Roman Empire to assure the limes, as they call the frontier, which was passed above mountains, hills, valleys, deep rivers. So that's why they consider that a natural frontier like it is the Danube, it's very important to stay between them and those migrators. So that's why we remain behind the Romanian, the Dacian Roman population, as we call it, which is actually the Dacian population Romanized, not Romanians yet, became Romanians between the centuries 3 and 5, when we lived together with the Slavs for about 100 years. And the Slavs melted in our mass of population and left some traces in our vocabulary. Reason that today we have about 10% of the words having Slavic roots. For example, our yes, it's da, like in Russian, because the Slavic language it's at the basic of the Russian language, of course. So between the 3rd and the 5th century, we appeared the Romanian language and the Romanian nation. And the Romanian language, as you know, Jim, probably, it's a new Romanic, it's a new Latin language, like Spanish, like French, like Italian. It belongs to the same linguistic family. So after that, in this period of time between the 3rd century after Christ and the 10th century after Christ, the Romanians do not left many written traces about them, because they were forced to refugee on the top of the mountains, being a nation of shepherds and agricultures, not of warriors. It was very difficult for them to resist in front of those invaders, very violent, very good warriors. So that's why they were refugee on the top of the mountains, letting in the hands of those invaders the fields where they were producing crops. So working those fields for them and for those barbarians in exchange of their protection, no, I can say. So we have about the Romanians in this period mostly archaeological discoveries of graves, of foundation of houses, names in Latin of the rivers, like for example Alutus, the river Olt, Argesis, the river Argeș, Maris, river Mureș, very big rivers in Romania. And in the year 1000, the Hungarians, which were settled exactly where it's Hungary now, into the Pannonic fields, they discovered Transylvania, our territory, full of forests, mountains, mines of salt, which was a very precious element in those times. And here it was very easy to be exploited because it was found in mountains of salt. And also they were starting to speak about this territory in Latin, because the Hungarians adopted the Western Christianity of the Roman Catholic Church, and because the official language of the Catholic Church is Latin, they were starting to write in their documents speaking about Terra Transilva, which it means the country beyond the forest. So from Transilva, beyond the forest, was transformed later in Transylvania. So this is the explanation of the name Transylvania from today. So welcome Tony, and welcome Peter. So after this period of time, as I told you at the beginning of this live, the Hungarian kingdom conquered Transylvania in about 100 years, and after this moment, when they complete the conquest, they colonized in here the Germans and the Hungarians. I told you in what purposes: the Germans as artisans and merchandisers, and Hungarians and the Sekes, a nation related with the Hungarians, for the defense of the province. Romanians remained only workers, losing all their political, economical, and military rights, and they remained to work in here for the Hungarians, but not stayed with the heads down. They continue all the time to fight, to struggle, to do rebellions, try to liberate them from this occupation of the foreigners. And this fortress, it's a very good example of what the Germans could build and could do here in Transylvania. Fortress like this, we have at least two in this area where I'm right now, and I will go to do some lives from there too. It's the one from Feldioara, which is it used to be the headquarters of the Teutonic Knights here in Transylvania, and another one is the one from Rupea, which also it's a very big and strong fortress built on the way to Sighișoara, another important medieval city from Romania, from Transylvania. And also very important connected with Sighișoara is the fact that it's one of the few European cities, medieval fortified European cities, which are still habitated by the people. So this is pretty much the story of the fortress today. And tomorrow I will wait for you into the journey to the Bran Castle. I will enter inside of Dracula's castle. I will tell you all the stories, all the legends, but not only about Dracula and Vlad the Impaler, the historical character which stay at the basics of this character, Dracula, but also stories about the Romanian characters from our mythology, which are also very close to the undeads, not vampires because we don't have, but bad spirits and these kind of things. I think that will be a fascinating travel and journey tomorrow to the Bran Castle, and I hope you will join me to tell you all these stories because I'm very close to that place. It's only about 15 minutes from here by the car, and I'm sure that will be a very good journey. And tomorrow and the next weekend, I will continue my lives about the medieval times here in Transylvania, because in the town where I live, in Gimbav, will be a very interesting medieval festival. So you will be able to see again all the knights, all the ladies, all the medieval music, and all the characters from those times acting in front of you. I will try to leave the fortress by one of the gates to show you a little bit the surroundings from the outside, because even that I think that you heard the thunders. The rain doesn't start yet, because if are not clouds on the mountain, usually is not happened any violent rain. So I hope it will be the same in this moment. Yes, Jim, I'm great. I'm glad to see that you had a professor from Romania in college. Yes, in Romania are a lot of great stories, because we have a very long history. We are here since at least 2,000 years, and I said at least because are a lot of populations which used to live here in Romania before of those 2,000 years. Here you can see part of the fortification from the outside to have an idea how big it is, and I will give you another image of the fortress from above to see it entirely how it looks. And one of the most important and one of the oldest cultures, material cultures of Romania and of Europe, it was existed here. It's called the Cucuteni-Ariușd culture, which was developed into this eastern area of Transylvania, and it's actually the most important culture of Europe before the Greek culture and the Roman culture. And it's a culture which imagine the people from the new age of stone, because we speak about 6,000 years ago, about the new age of stone, those guys was capable to do pottery and to burn it in the ovens at about 700 degrees of temperature. And also the decorations of those of that pottery of them are very similar with the decorations of some Chinese pottery from the same period. It's a mystery for many specialists which influenced which. The Chinese on our ancestors, we on them. I bet that the Chinese influenced on us, because on those times the Chinese culture was way above to any kind of European culture. So also another characteristic of that Cucuteni culture is the fact that they were organized in villages which had streets, houses, in some cases houses with one floor. So everything, it was extraordinarily well organized for the new age of stone. Here I will find another entrance gate into one of the exterior courtyards of the fortress, and we have an image above of the commercial road which goes to Bran, to Dracula's castle, just to have an idea of the area, how it looks like. Yes, we can enter in here. As you can see, it's a very violent terrain. There is pretty far away from here. I will try to get up into one of the towers from here, just to be able to show you the view, how it looks from here. But you can see that mountain. You see, it's a big mountain in front of us, and one of the to the left, that mountain descends slowly, goes to the ground. That big mountain in front of us, I'm zooming now on it. So at the foot of that mountain, in the place where the mountain touched the ground to the left, descending, there it's Bran Castle, Dracula's castle, where I will be tomorrow. Thank you, Jim. And you can see it's not a very big distance to the Bran Castle, to Dracula's castle. There, between the mountains, it used to be the castle considered to be of Dracula. And from here, I will get down from the tower back into the yard. Okay. You can see the rest of the area from here. You can see how violent rain. It's above the village of Vulcan. It's another German village around. As you can see, those German villages were disposed into a semicircle around of the city of Brașov. It was like a belt of fortifications around of the city, because they had to defend Brașov, which was the main commercial center and political center of this part of Transylvania. Now I'm getting down from the tower, and I will get out from the fortress in front of it, just to show you the rest of the view from here. Let's see. All right. So we are here. It's like a Belvedere point. This is the former Rosenau, the valley of the roses, of the wild roses, as the German call it. Actually, those wild roses, it was briar, the plant called briar. And somewhere in front of me, right in front of me, on that green field, to the area where it's raining now, it used to be a Roman fortress, a Roman castrum, as the Romans call it, called Cumidava, which was built in here just to reinforce the Roman limes, the Roman frontier. And from this place, I will go back to to the former gate of the fortress. No, and we'll see you tomorrow in Bran Castle. As you can see, if that mountain in front of us is not very badly covered with clouds, will not be so many rain in here in the area of Râșnov. Okay, I'm sorry for the fact that they were starting the renovation of the fortress right now, and we wasn't able to enter inside of the courtyard, inside of the inner courtyard. But anyway, I hope that I've told you good stories, and I gave you interesting information about Transylvania and about the fortresses and about the knights from here. And tomorrow, I'm sure we'll have a great tour on Dracula's castle around 5 p.m. My local time, and we'll talk about Dracula and about the region of Transylvania as it used to be into the medieval times. Also, don't forget, if you can, to let me a review on my page, because your reviews are important, help me to improve my activity, and the feedback, it's all the time very good for a guide. After this, thank you, Sharon. Also, before to end this, if somebody have something to ask me about the tour, now it's the moment. And you know how we say in Romania, if the professor do a bad lesson, the children will not ask anything. So I hope my lesson wasn't bad. I hope my tour was okay, that you learn a lot, as I saw, and I will wait for you to come tomorrow for the tour, and I will end my tour with an image of the towers of these fortresses. Thank you all. Don't forget to give me a review. Thank you for the tips. Don't forget about them also, because they're important. And thank you, Jim, for your questions. Thank you, Maggie, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice evening if you are in the United States. Have a good day if you are in Europe, and have a good night if you are in Australia or in Asia. Bye bye to you all.